Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 3 of HBO's Perry Mason, entitled Chapter 11. The thing I enjoy the most about this show is watching them find clues and pursue them. And I know that's a pretty common thing in these types of shows, but for some reason, when I'm watching this team on this show put clues together and figure shit out, they seem so smart, and the show seems so well written. It's a show that treats the viewer like they have a lick of common sense. They don't hold your hand and explain everything to you outright. They make you work, not a lot, but they make you work a little. And I really enjoy watching these characters do their detective work. And if you remember from Season 1, Perry started off as a private detective anyway, so it fits within his wheelhouse. And then we obviously know we're going to transition into some great courtroom scenes later. So I'm loving the detective aspect right now, and I'm sure we're going to love the court stuff later. But, an example, an early scene in this episode shows Perry calling what seems to be like a retirement home or some sort of medical facility, something, right? We can't tell what it is or who he's calling. He asks about a resident named McCutcheon and finds out that there's no one there by that name. And then he asks for an address for this place. And during this whole conversation, I'm sitting there like, what the fuck's even happening right now? Like, did I miss something? This is like the second scene of the episode. I'm like, did I miss a scene? Like, am I supposed to understand what he's up to? And I was a bit frustrated because I'm like, am I tripping? Like, I don't know. I feel like I missed the scene. I'm like, what's going on here? But throughout the course of the episode, what was happening in that early scene gradually comes to light. And I love these moments of realization where you come to understand that the show is intentionally keeping things from you. And you're only going to begin to understand what's happening as the show allows you to understand what's happening. And I think that's really fucking cool. So kind of breaking out what I'm talking about here, coming back to this scene on the phone, throughout the course of the episode, we come to find out that the number he called was the number for a place called Sandhaven, which appears to be some sort of, again, like a mental hospital, an old folks home, something of that degree, right? And it's the number, It's the number for Sandhaven, which was the number that mysterious figure put in Brooks's wallet for Perry to find in, it was either end of episode 1 or beginning of episode 2. So he asked for McCutcheon, and he asked for an address because he had no idea who that number was for, what information he was meant to glean from it, or how Brooks was connected to it. So, like, he don't know either in that scene what the fuck's going on, right? So then, him and Della later go to visit Camila Nygaard. And Camila Nygaard is played by Hope Davis, who resumes looking like Lisa Kudrow on this show after she was looking like Lisa Kudrow on Succession. I think last season, might have been season 2. But a couple of things of note happen here as well. We find out that Brooks tried to do a deal with her father, with her behind his father's back, his father Lydell's back. It was apparently a no-no in the business world. Okay, I guess they found a place to have morals. But more importantly, Perry just replete with slick-ass ideas, like how he did the thing with Holcomb in the last episode. He asks her about Sandhaven, despite being told by Sandhaven that they didn't have anyone named McCutcheon there. And she immediately reacts and gets upset. She's like, I don't deal with rumors, and the Lawson family's already been through enough. And I love that because that now told Perry, that informed Perry of something he didn't already know, and she didn't know that she was doing that. Like, he tricked her into telling him something or confirming something for him that he didn't already know. It's one of those things where, like, you ask somebody, like, how, you know, what, I'm struggling to think of an example, but when, you know, in a show or movie, one character might ask another character something else, and then the character's like, oh, how did you know? And it's like, well, I didn't, but you just confirmed it for me right now by reacting. That's what happened here, and I thought it was really cool. So now Camila has inadvertently given Perry another clue because he now knows that he was meant to find this Lawson person. So in the very next scene, he goes to Sandhaven to ask about this Miss Lawson. He's told by the front desk lady that she being Lawson, doesn't keep any non-immediate family visitors, but he gets the front desk lady to leave. He goes through this ledger to find her room number. He goes to the room, he snoops around, he's taking pictures of shit, until Miss Lawson is wheeled in, at which point he comes out and takes a picture of her as well, because we see that she's clearly, I don't know, I don't want to presume she's completely brain dead, I don't know, but she's clearly like an invalid to some sort of degree. She's in a wheelchair, she doesn't talk, she doesn't move, she just sits there, she stares, no reactions. We learn her name is Noreen, and then we also learn that she has a brother whose name starts with a V. Now, I want to come back to the note in Brooks's wallet. Everyone, I'm sure, is wondering who put it there. I also wondered if the note was a clue. This was last week. If the note was a clue, or if it was meant to steer Perry in the wrong direction purposely. Well, now we know it was very much a clue meant to steer Perry in the right direction. So does that mean we can rule out Lydell as that mysterious figure that put the note in the wallet? And I think also the same mysterious figure was probably the person who was standing on the dock during the boat fire at the end of episode 1. Like, can we rule out Lydell as that now? Because he had a very confrontational conversation with Perry in this episode that revolved around Perry stopping looking into Brooks. So he wouldn't very well have put a phone number in Brooks's wallet that would lead Perry to Noreen Lawson, which is, again, putting Perry back into the direction of Brooks. So that, of course, now begs the question, if we can rule out Lydell as who that shadowy figure is, who is it? And we know it's someone with clout at the police station, because, I mean, they just handed that person over the evidence box, like, yeah, fuck it, here you go. Do whatever you want with Brooks's wallet. My first thought is, could it be Holcomb, maybe? I don't have any evidence for that yet, or motive, other than Holcomb possibly being upset at, maybe he found out Brooks was kind of screwing him over, and this was some sort of retaliation. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense for Holcomb to steer Perry in a direction that will help Perry solve the case. Because if Holcomb did it, then helping Perry solve the case puts him in jeopardy. I have another theory about who it could be that I'll get to in a moment. But before I get to my final thoughts, I know I'm getting to final thoughts a little early, but I have a lot of thoughts, just like little things that I wanted to talk about. But before I get into that, I want to talk about Paul in this episode. Paul has a very interesting arc this episode. Another one where I'm watching this whole thing like, what the fuck is going on? And then once we realize what it is, it's pretty fucking important. So what ends up happening is Paul ends up going to that same little homeless town that Della went to earlier. And he finds these two kids shooting a gun. And he asks them about it. And they're like, yo, we found some money. We rented this. And he's like, motherfuckers out here renting guns? Can you direct me in the direction of that person? And then he also gets the name of those kids' father. So he goes to this person. He's like, yo, I heard you could hook me up. And he drops the name of the kid's father. The kid's father told me. And then he goes in there, and this guy's like, yep, here's the guns. And Paul rents 5 of them for the entire day. We then later see Paul soaking a shit ton of phone books in water, and then we see the phone books piled, like 6, 7, 8 high, and it's 5 piles with each of the 5 guns sitting on top, and he's picking up each gun, and he's firing into the wet phone book so he can extract the bullet, and then he's comparing the bullet to the photographs from the crime scene, from Brooks's crime scene. And sure enough, he matches one of the bullets, the bullet from the crime scene. He goes back to the rental guy. He's like, hey, did you rent this to the Gallardo boys? He's like, fuck. And now we know things have just gotten interesting. The Gallardo boys rented the murder weapon. Pretty interesting stuff. I love how we got there. That is an interesting plot twist, especially given the fact that they're denying having any involvement and denying that the DA even has their prints. So now if we know they actually rented the murder weapon, then it's like, well, shit. Now, is the DA lying about having your prints? Did these guys actually do it? Why are they so adamant that they didn't? Were they paid to do it maybe and paid to take the fall? I don't know. Well, they were paid to take the fall. They wouldn't be fighting it so much. But there's a lot to come out here, and I'm super excited to see where this is going. I thought that was a really interesting development. I kind of toyed around with the idea of like, what if they did it? And I still don't think that that's where we're going to end up, but I'm super interested to see how they're going to explain those two boys having rented that gun. So, what if the guy who, this is random, sorry. What if the guy who rented out the gun was paid by whoever it was that actually killed Brooks to say, like, if somebody comes along asking about who rented the gun, say it was the Gallardo boys. Maybe they didn't do anything. So, moving on to my thoughts. What was up with that opening scene where Holcomb, he like changes clothes before he goes home, and then he gets there and there's a dude like digging through his trash? Like, it seemed like they wanted me to focus on that. Like, I don't understand. Like everything should have a purpose, right? I wouldn't have, let's say the guy digging through the trash wasn't there. I wouldn't have watched that scene and been like, why isn't there someone digging through his trash? Like, so they didn't add reality to that scene, right? We didn't need that guy there. That doesn't mean anything. They put that guy there for a reason. Why? Like, I'm starting to wonder if that guy was pretending to be a homeless person digging through trash, but he was digging through trash looking for some sort of evidence against Holcomb. Because that was too conspicuous. Like, I don't know. He only walks away with a bottle, but we don't see what he was into before Holcomb pulled up. And the fact that Holcomb just kind of shoot him away, I would think that somebody as shady as Holcomb would immediately be suspicious and would maybe more aggressively get that guy out of there. So the fact that they showed that made it feel important. But then when they had Holcomb downplay it, that made it feel even more important. Because I'm like, Holcomb wouldn't do that, right? So I don't know. I feel like that scene was more important than it felt at the time. I could be doing what I do, doing too fucking much. But that's just what I thought about it. I remain completely uninterested in Anita and Della. You know, they kiss in this episode, and I just can't see anyone who thinks it's a good look for Della or a compelling storyline for her. They haven't even shown Hazel, and I think the magnitude of Della's actions would be felt more if we saw more of what her life is like with Hazel. Like, we've only heard it through her telling Anita that they're not doing all that great, right? I just feel like if we saw more of them not doing great and saw more of Anita doing the things that Hazel isn't, even though I still wouldn't approve of Anita's actions, I'd be a little bit more into this storyline. But like the idea of just Anita just popping up and now her and Della are just dating and now I'm supposed to like forget about Hazel even though they mentioned her, I don't know. It's not really working for me. I like the scene where Perry and Paul try to essentially, they like make the pieces fit into place that Holcomb's the person that killed Brooks. And they're very clearly forcing it and reaching for reasons to convince themselves it was him. So I was glad when Della kind of like called BS on it and was like, yo, you guys have no evidence for anything that you're saying. But I like the fact that that shows that Della's needed, right? Because if Della's not there to be the voice of reason, those two are just going to feed off of each other and just keep convincing themselves that it was Holcomb until they go and do something stupid. So like I like the fact that she's the voice of reason. Like, hey, look, get evidence first. The judge at the case, man. Like, when he said they should have killed someone less important because it rankles fewer people, what an asshole. Like, I fucking hate this judge. I hate the fucking prosecutor and their fucking racism. I'm glad Perry was able to convince him to move them to another cell, though, after the whole glass in their food and all that shit that was fucked up. So I'm glad Perry was able to pull that off. But man, that judge is an asshole. Great scene with Lydell fucking up that one dude's face who came back and was like asking for $240 that Brooks owed him. And he's like, you need to stop saying Brooks' name. You need to forget you ever knew him. And now I'm going to ram your face against this, this spinning piece of metal. Like, that guy had to look like the fucking, like, T-1000 in Terminator 2 after that fucking shit, man. That was crazy. Another character arc I'm not sure how I feel about. this arc with Perry and his son's teacher. I'm not there. There's a whole lot left to determine. Like, let's see how it plays out. But right now, I'm kind of not into it. I don't know. I feel like every show doesn't need to have a goddamn romantic relationship. Like, somebody don't have to be fucking somebody else in every single show. You could just make a show where nobody is fucking somebody else on the show. Like, everyone doesn't have to be in a relationship. And it feels like they are trying to force in this Anita Della relationship thing, and they're trying to force in this Perry thing with the teacher. And unless it somehow ties into the main storyline, I don't need shitty, underdeveloped, shoehorned relationships for the sake of shoehorned relationships. Like, I don't need it. I don't like, and again, admittedly, I'm not that kind of person. I don't watch romantic comedies. I think they're dumb. I think they're unrealistic. I think they're like pointless. I don't like any of that kind of shit. Sure, there's people who are going to find value in seeing a relationship develop in a television show. This don't feel like that. This feels like we need to have some relationships happening, so let's just have it happening. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't need it. And right now, after 3 episodes, I'm still not interested in Perry and the teacher. I'm still not interested in Della and Anita. And I don't know. I feel like they should just get rid of it. Which they can't. But I feel like I wish they'd never done it. And then lastly, I thought that it was a really good scene when Perry tells Della about Emily Dotson. I thought that was a really good scene, especially given the fact that we find out that Lydell somehow knows about Emily Dotson as well, which was interesting. And then that leads me to my other theory. You know, I said, what if Holcomb is the shadowy figure? What if Pete Strickland's the shadowy figure? What if he's working with Lydell? What if he was arresting that Melvin Perkins guy on behalf of Lydell? What if he's the one that told Lydell about Emily Dotson? He's the only other person that knows, right? And then he would also have clout at the police station. I would hate for it to be Perry. I mean Pete, but could be Pete. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode, how you're enjoying this season of the show so far, and then I will see you guys next week with episode 4. And until then, peace.